So one of the biggest challenges I have is that, say, a rescue mission or Salvation Army, if the drug test comes positive, they have to leave. And I have a big problem with that because drug abuse is not it's a sickness.
Yes.
It's a psychiatric problem.
Yes.
And to kick somebody out of a shelter because patient is doing drugs makes no sense, because around Jackson, all the people who are homeless who are doing drugs. But it's much better to provide them a shelter and get rehab and help rather than throw them out of the shelter. I mean, I have always wondered why shelters throw people out because.
Well, I don't know I don't think the other shelters do that, but I can speak for community, for Chapman Partnership. We don't do that. I mean, when people test positive for drugs, and I can tell you because the executive from South Miami Hospital, she's a very good friend of mine. Her son was the one that I helped because he was homeless, had a drug problem. When he tested positive, we sent him to a facility. Actually, it was the Village. We sent him to the Village, and then from the Village, he went somewhere else to get treatment for that, for that addiction to drug. So when people come in, and we don't test them right away. If we see that they're acting in a peculiar way, and we assume that they could be positive, that's when we test them, because we don't test everybody that comes in.
Yeah.
We see how their personalities are how they're, but I understand the frustration. Just like a lot of people call us and say, why can't you pick this homeless person off the street? Why does this person have to be on 87th and Bird Road all the time? Why can't the city just force them? Because that's another issue that we're having. A lot of people want us to force all of the people that are on the street, and there's we were talking about Miami Beach, there's a big problem, homeless problem on Miami Beach, that we have to force the people or arrest them. We can't do that. The person has to be able to come in off the street willfully. Why? Because we have rules where we work. They have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning to have breakfast. They have to have lunch. They have to have dinner at a certain time. They have to be working, or they have to be looking for a job. And a lot of people, this is the reality. A lot of people don't want to live by the rules. And if they can't live by the rules, then they can live with us, because we have a curfew at 7 o'clock at night. I mean, imagine when you have almost 500 people living in one shelter and 300 in the other. We have to keep them somewhat organized. So if they start breaking rules, then we have to ask them, to leave. But yeah, it's tough. I'm not going to tell you it's an easy job, because I always tell, we have our deputy director that's been there for 15 years, Mr. Brown, and I always tell him, if I were to be able to do a reality show of what happens at the center, I would be very rich. Because sometimes I walk into his office and it's like the Jerry Springer show is going on, because we have a lot of people. Imagine so many different personalities. There are people getting out of prison, the people that are affected by foreclosure, the person that lost their job, because we've even had, believe it or not, we had a doctor in the last 6 months, a doctor, a lawyer, and a masseuse because of a divorce. They fell into depression and they couldn't pay for their bills, and they ended up at our shelter. And then I was talking to I forgot where the gentleman was, but he was asking me, is there veterans there? We've even had veterans come. We have the vets from Vietnam, but we also have the vets from Iraq and Afghanistan that I've been wanting to do news stories with them. And when I asked them, do you want to, Channel 4 wants to do a story, do you mind coming on, and you're fighting for the freedom of our country, and then I would like to do a story as to why your situation is what it is. They're embarrassed. They don't. That's why I haven't been able to get a story like that on the news, because they're embarrassed and they don't want to.
Our club gathered things for the vets, and I took them down to the homestead. We had a car force situation for the veterans, and I gave them to Kimmy. And they were sitting outside, but when I drove up with the cart and unloaded the car, they all kind of disappeared, sort of like this. And, it's embarrassment. But all of them got there. I got a picture with them. My first date with my husband, my second date, was with the Rotarians here serving lunch. And I said, any man who wanted to get up early in the morning, prepare lunch, cook and serve it was my kind of guy. So our club used to, at least once a month, go down and prepare the meals. The other story I have is that because anything I have that I don't need, I drop off at the center. I've been doing this for years, and I'll forget one scene whenever I'm thinking about, my life is not as easy as I wanted. I was standing there dropping some clothes off the counter, and this young couple came in, and they had this cute little baby, and they were covered with mosquito bites. And she said, "Is there any room?" And they said, "I'm sorry, we're full. We're full." And they had to go back out to the car. We are so blessed to have our homes and our homes. Because homestead is where they have the families. They keep the mothers with the children in homestead. And that's why you have so many, you have 300 families down there?
300, yes, 300 people down there.
So that's my little story about.
And we have families, but we have families in downtown also. And I'm glad that you brought up that point, because people always ask, how can I help? And we're always looking for clothes, for furniture, I'm so happy you're doing the book bags and the school supplies, because we always need those. We're always in desperate need of uniforms and toys, because like I mentioned earlier, when the children come in and they don't have their toys, we like to give them some of the, some toys to calm them down and to make them feel somewhat at home as much as we can. The school uniforms, sometimes they come in, they don't even have their clothes or the socks or the underwear. And the furniture, when we move them out, into low-income housing, we furnish their apartment. So we give them, kitchen utensils, bed sheets, towels, and beds, and things like that. If we can give them a TV, we'd love to do that too. So we're always looking for all that kind of help as well, because that's how we function. That's what keeps us going.
I have a question. Why change from the name from Community Partnership for the Homeless to Chapman? What kind of business decision was that?
The business decision was made because our chairman at the moment wanted to honor Alva Chapman. So we had a team in place, a committee, and they decided that, since he passed away a few years ago and he did so much for the community and did so much for the homeless population, that we wanted to honor his name. So that's why we changed our name to Chapman Partnership.
And what did it used to be?
Community Partnership for Homeless.
Okay. And how are you affiliated with the
Well, I'm glad that's what people call us. That's that's our street name, and the police call us that, the fire department calls us that, the homeless community calls us that, but we really want to be referred to as Chapman Partnership, because, sometimes that's where the confusion comes in, and that's why we're doing an aggressive, branding and public relations campaign, so people understand. Because believe it or not, I spoke at the Rotary Club or the Kiwanis Club down in Homestead, and someone asked me the same question, "Oh, is this the hack?" And that's why we want to get out there and educate, the Miami community that we are the same thing.
I took a tour of the facility. It's very nice to have them.
Yeah,
Chapman.
Yeah, Chapman.
And because we get a lot of them at the library. But I'm doing a lot of outreach right now with two organizations. One is called the Hospitality Institute, and one is called the Diageo Project at FIU. So if you're not aware of those, I'd like to tell you about them, because what they do is take people from transitional housing and put them through intensive training to get jobs in the hospitality industry.
Well, we have a partnership with the Hospitality Institute.
There's another one now.
Yeah, that one I'm not familiar with.
Yeah,
I get the name from you. Okay.
As Clara mentioned, we used to go down and we would prepare food and we would serve the homeless. And my sense when we did that was that it was more a PR kind of thing. It was more, well, it was good to get community groups down, because then community groups get to see what's going on and get a tour of the area. So indeed, if we are familiar with it, is that the best utilization of our skills or money or whatever? We do the book bags. We do. We've heard you folks speak before. Many of us do give all our goods that we're not using to the center. I just like a priority of what's for us. What is the best use of us to help you?
I think if spreading the word, that would help us a lot, because people we've been here for 15 years and people don't know that we're here. When we go out and we say we have these amazing centers, if anybody here wants to come on a tour, please contact me and let me know, because we would love to have you on site so you could see, our beautiful facility, because it really is a very, very nice place. And like I said, I always, when people ask me that question, I always say you should do what you feel your heart is telling you to do, because we do need all those things, like the, towels and bedding and furniture. And I always feel like everything is really like an urgency, because we have so many people coming in and out on a daily basis, because people usually stay with us up to, it used to be 47 days, and now it's averaging 66 to 65 days because of, what we're feeling in the economy. It's been a little bit harder to find these individuals jobs and to find them, a secure place to live and everything else. So it's become a little bit more challenging. So that's why I always say that, everything is an urgency, and please give what you can.
I also volunteer at the visitor center down in Florida City, and the tourists come in and out. But because we're on US 1, we have some of the homeless people who walk by the visitor center and they come in. And we've had one lady who come in and she'd say, well, I left the hack, but I need to go back. And then I called Sharon, and she said that she couldn't, the lady, even if she got a ride up there, she needed to have the police pick her up there. Is that the procedure?
That's correct. Because sometimes people think that they can just come up the street and say, I'm homeless, can I have a place to stay? And you guys would be surprised, because we get calls from people from Chicago, New York, California, that I don't know how they hear about us, and they're like, oh, can you reserve a room for me, or can you reserve my bed? I mean, they call us like if it's a hotel. It's actually quite, shocking sometimes when I listen to these phone calls. But they have to go through the county, and the county goes and picks them up, and they're interviewed, and they say, where was your last address? Were you working? And gets their history. And many times when people call me, because, to be honest, sometimes people are calling the number and they're not getting the quick response that they want. If they call me, I say, call the police. Call 911 and call the police, because the police, if you say you're homeless, for the most part, they'll pick you up and they'll try to see what your situation is, because I've had those cases, those types of people call me, and then I find out that they got here to our center because the police brought them in.
You said most the people who there work, but you have a 7 p.m. curfew. What if somebody's working, like you said, at Target or Walmart, and they're on a night shift where they...
We give them a pass. Their case manager gives them a pass. That's how they can, if they have something, if they have a church event or work, or there's, we find that the reason why they need to stay out later is a valid, excuse, we give them a pass that they can come in later. Because we do, that's a very good question. We do have people that work, an overnight shift. So.
Okay, Betty, thank you. We have one task for you. We have a 50-50 drawing of tickets, and we need you to pull a ticket.